Hello guys, it's Irina today with you, and we're going to have one more interesting video about living in Ukraine. And today we are having such kind of news video. We will talk about land market in Ukraine due to lifting the moratorium since the 1st of July. So, since this moratorium on the sale of lands in Ukraine was lifted, the more and more questions about lands in Ukraine raised up. And today we will deal with you about the most interesting and important things about land market in Ukraine. So we have some questions for today to deal with. The first is, what types of land in Ukraine you can buy as a foreigner? What does the lifting of this moratorium change? And what is permitted and prohibited for now? So, if this seems interesting for you, let's start. So first, in Ukraine we have three kinds of lands. The first one is for gardening only, the second for building houses, and the third one is for commercial purposes, for agricultural commercial purposes. And a little spoiler, this moratorium was only for third kind of lands in Ukraine, and only for this kind of for this kind of lands the moratorium has lifted. But let's start with with the first and the second kind of lands. So the first one, as I said, for gardening only. This is, like small area around the house, or maybe there is no houses on such lands, for farming, for gardening, for planting some kind of different agricultural even things. These kinds of lands are usually used for little households, for our grandmas and granddads. When someone like to plant something like potato, cucumbers, and maybe some trees, and all these fruits and vegetables are only for their own household and maybe for their children or grandchildren, but they are not for commercial purposes. So that's not very big land sizes, only for, like for soul. Second kind is for building houses, and I forgot to tell that the second and the first kind of lands can buy even foreigners in Ukraine. So you can buy land for gardening or for building a house. That's not a problem at all that you are a foreigner. The price for such lands are absolutely different. There depends on city or near the city, which region, size, what is on this or on this area. Maybe there is a wood or a lake, or there is absolutely nothing. That is just nothing, just land. So that's very hard to say the right price, because there is no average price. It really depends on regions, and also in Ukraine we have some other kind of sizes and quantities. In Europe and in other countries, European countries, people used to use acres, and in Ukraine we used in normal Russian and Ukrainian, this word is mean ak, and we used to use the word sotka. There is no translation for this word in English, so we can use just word sotka. And for example, about prices, why I was talking on this story about kinds of sizes in Europe and in Ukraine, because I'd like to tell you some average land prices. I'd like to take as example the average land size that is in Ukrainian 10 sotkas, and in for acres that's approximately 0,25 acres. So I will write this right here, and it would be easier for you to understand. So the average land size for this kind of acres, for example, in Kiev, in the city Kiev, you can pay even $100,000 and more for such size of land. And in Kyiv area, in Kyiv region, such size of land you can buy for $30,000, just $30,000 from. I tend to believe that from $30,000. And when we are talking about, for example, some other regions in Ukraine, some smaller regions in Ukraine, we can buy such size even for $10,000 or $3,000. So the average price is really too wavy for different regions in Ukraine. In Ukraine is also for building a very popular cottage town. A developer bought a land plot, a big one, and divided it into parts and building houses in one style, in the same style. And in such cottage towns, price for acre is much and much bigger than in than in other parts of region. So such kind of cottage towns are much higher in price than just average land plots. So for now we understand that this moratorium that has lifted on the 1st of July changed absolutely nothing for the two first kinds of land plots in Ukraine. And these two kind of land plots, foreigners can buy, build a house, make a garden or something like that. And let's go to the third kind of land plots in Ukraine. So from the 1st of July 2021, different land plots can be made for purchase for citizens of Ukraine, only for citizens of Ukraine. They are only up to 100 hectares in one hand. People that were renting these agricultural plots would be the first who can purchase this land plot. And for big agricultural businesses, land market is still closed. It would be open only in 2024, and for one business there is a limit only for 10,000 hectares for one business. And honestly, I think that there will be no differences in law, and not residential of Ukraine cannot buy agricultural land plots in Ukraine. I think that it not be changed in 10 years, at least 10 years. And talking about land prices, land values. The price of land plots until 2030 cannot be lower than 50,000 hryvnias per hectare. I forgot. Per hectare. They will grow annually 5-10%. And they are some things that are prohibited, and that's very important. So first, sale of land to foreigners will be before decision of the relevant referendum. So without referendum, no foreigner can buy a land plot, agricultural land plot in Ukraine. Also prohibited sale of state and communal lands. Also prohibited sale of lands located closer than 50 kilometers to the state and to the state border. And there is one more prohibition: selling of lands to citizens of Russian Federation and representative of terrorists. And also that's prohibited to sell lands for offshore companies. So now we have such situation. The first and the second kind of lands in Ukraine you can buy in all time. The third kind that is a little bit hard, and I think that it not be very easy to buy agricultural for commercial purposes in Ukraine, but due to referendum that can be that could be. But if you are from Russian Federation, you cannot buy lands for agricultural purposes in Ukraine. So our video is going to its end, and we're going to have so many beautiful vlogs from Odessa and other Ukrainian cities in the closer time. So if it's interesting for you, stay with me. Thank you for your likes and comments, that is very important for me. Thank you a lot, see you very soon in my next video. Goodbye!